Have you ever walked into a room, maybe a high-stakes meeting or something, and almost immediately felt like you were just vibrating at a totally different frequency than everyone else?
Oh, absolutely. You can just, feel the energy shift the second you walk in.
Right. And then inevitably someone pulls you aside later, or maybe they just save it for your annual review and they tell you that you need to, well, tone it down.
Yeah, that classic piece of corporate advice.
Exactly. They say your personality is just a bit too much for the room. You're, I don't know, too loud, too ambitious, too opinionated.
Which is honestly such a universal experience for so many people.
It really is. So today, our mission in this deep dive is to explore exactly that feeling. And we're going to do it through the lens of this viral, just profoundly insightful post by a marketing strategist named Joy Villamar.
Yeah, her post really struck a nerve.
It did. We are looking at the double-edged sword of workplace feedback. And our role today is to unpack how the exact same traits that can completely destroy your career in one environment can actually catapult you to massive success in another.
Right, because it completely changes how we think about professional development. Usually we just focus on changing ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, let's unpack this, because the way Joy sets up the premise of her corporate experience is something I think a lot of you listening are going to find uncomfortably familiar.
I know, I did.
Yeah, me too. She starts her post with a list, a very specific, very blunt list of the feedback she got over the years during her corporate days.
And it's pretty harsh stuff.
It is. I want to read these out loud because hearing them back to back really paints a picture. She was told, you are too much. You have to tone down. You have to stay low.
J-Lo.
I know, right? And it goes on. You have to keep your opinion to yourself. You shouldn't do that. And then, maybe the most cutting one of all, she was told, you shouldn't be this.
See, that phrasing is wild. You shouldn't be this.
It feels so perfect.
Because it is. That is not a critique of her work product. That's not a manager saying, her marketing strategies are bad. That is a direct indictment of her personality.
Yeah, her fundamental nature. But her initial reaction to this barrage of criticism, that's what breaks my heart a little bit because it's just so incredibly common.
She tried to fix it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
She writes that she treated these comments as blessings. She assumed that this feedback was, for her own good to help her career growth.
Which is what we're all taught to do, right? Take the feedback, smile, and adapt.
Right. Try to please everyone by taking directions from all sides. But adapting to every single piece of contradictory feedback is, it's impossible.
It really is.
It's like, imagine taking a brand new, expensive watercolor set.
Yeah.
You've got these vibrant, distinct colors. But then you decide you want to use all of them at once to please everyone, so you mix every single color together on the palette.
You don't get a rainbow.
No, you don't get a masterpiece. You just get this muted, muddy, uninspiring gray. You lose all the vibrancy trying to incorporate every single input.
What's fascinating here is the underlying motive hidden in that specific language she received. If you look at phrases like stay low and keep your opinion to yourself, those aren't actually instructions to improve a skill set. They're specifically designed to diminish her presence. They are literally commands to shrink and silence her voice.
To just make her smaller.
Exactly. To maintain a comfortable status quo for the people managing her.
Well, and if you spend years applying that muddy gray strategy to your own personality, it doesn't lead to harmony. It leads directly to a systemic breakdown.
It takes a massive emotional and physical toll.
It really did for Joy. She described seeing herself as completely shattered and broken. She said she woke up with no energy to do anything. She became hyperconscious, worried about everything she did.
Constantly monitoring herself.
Right. And then, the ultimate irony. She started falling short of what she should do. She literally became worse at her job and started questioning her own worth.
Which is devastating.
So what does this all mean? How does trying so hard to be a better, more compliant employee actually make you worse at your job?
It seems completely counterintuitive, right?
Yeah.
But it's actually a well-documented psychological paradox. By trying to please everyone, you fall victim to something workplace psychologists call covering.
Covering, like camouflage.
Exactly like camouflage. It's the active effort an employee puts into hiding parts of their identity to blend in, and it is exhausting.
Because it's a constant performance.
Right. When you are hyper self-conscious, when your internal monologue is just constantly asking, am I being too loud? Am I staying low? That drains your baseline energy.
You're just burning all your fuel on the disguise.
Exactly. So by the time you actually need to do your job, like be creative, execute a marketing strategy, your cognitive battery is completely dead.
Wow. So the very feedback meant to help her ultimately destroyed her creativity and productivity.
Precisely.
But from this absolute lowest point of questioning her worth, the narrative shifts. Because recognizing that the environment is the problem, not you, is the catalyst for a massive life pivot.
It's the moment of clarity.
It is. So Joy quits. She leaves her corporate job behind and starts a totally new career as a freelance marketing strategist.
Good for her.
Right. And she institutes these new rules of engagement. She decides she isn't going to hold back anymore.
What were her specific rules?
She said she let herself make bold decisions, go into uncomfortable situations, expose herself in different locations.
I love that.
And, crucially, she let herself make mistakes to rise from the occasions. She basically decided to do what works for her and become the person she wanted to be.
Which is a complete 180 from trying to be muddy gray.
Here's where it gets really interesting. Think about a plant that's been wilting in this tiny, restrictive little pot on a windowsill for years.
Okay.
And then suddenly it gets taken out and planted in a massive open field.
Right.
The plant itself didn't change, right? It didn't get new DNA. The artificial boundaries restricting its roots were simply removed.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, the crucial detail here is that Joy allowed herself to make mistakes.
Yeah, why is that so important?
Because in the corporate setting, she was paralyzed. She couldn't afford a single mistake because she was already beamed too much.
Right, she was always on thin ice.
Exactly. But in her freelance life, mistakes are reframed as opportunities to, as she put it, rise from the occasions. She found psychological safety.
Even though freelancing is inherently risky.
Yes, financially it's risky, but psychologically she was finally safe to make bold decisions because she wasn't being evaluated on her personality anymore.
She was just evaluated on her results.
Exactly.
Okay, but I need to ask, does this self-actualization actually pay the bills?
That is the million-dollar question.
Because Joy's story proves that moving from an environment that stifles you to one that leverages you has a literal, quantifiable return on investment.
Oh, the results are undeniable.
They are. She says she became happier and better intellectually, emotionally, and financially. Brands saw her potential without her having to hold back, and they used it to their business's advantage.
They utilized her full self.
Yeah, and they treat her well. And here's the crazy part. They compensate her based on her true worth, which she notes is exactly 5x of what she used to earn in corporate.
5 times. That is incredible.
Wait, I need you to break this down for me.
Yeah.
So her old company saw her too muchness as a threat, right?
Right.
But these new brands see the exact same trait as a massive business advantage. Why is the exact same trait valued so differently depending on the setting?
Well, it comes down to the psychology of workplace intimidation and risk. Her old people, as she calls them, the corporate managers, they wanted to suppress her to maintain the status quo.
Because she was unpredictable.
Right. They were threatened by her potential. They knew she could do anything she set her mind to. And they honestly didn't like that idea. It made them uncomfortable.
So they tried to contain her.
Exactly. But in contrast, freelance clients aren't trying to manage her or contain her. They have a problem they can't solve, and they are utilizing her too muchness as a strategic asset. They want her disruptive energy. And that 5x salary detail, that is hard, market-driven proof of her actual value when she is unsuppressed.
It really just validates that the problem was never her. It was always the room she was in.
100%.
So as we wrap up, Joy shares a final message with the reader. She acknowledges that this story could be yours, but she carefully notes that, we may not all have the same privilege or upbringing or responsibilities.
Which is very fair. Not everyone can just quit their job tomorrow.
Right. You might have a mortgage, kids, but her ultimate rule still stands. Never let them tell you who you should be. Remember that.
And that leads to a really important challenge for you listening to this right now. You need to audit the feedback you're currently receiving in your own life. Look at the people giving you advice. Are they asking you to grow? Or are they subtly asking you to shrink just to make them more comfortable?
Such a crucial distinction. It really changes how you view everything.
It really does.
So we want to leave you with one final thought to mull over today. What if your biggest, most heavily criticized flaw isn't actually a flaw at all, but simply the wrong audience looking at your greatest superpower?